The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. On the busy highway, cars moved steadily, some faster than others, and the hum of engines filled the evening air. Officer Daniels was in his patrol car, quietly observing the flow of traffic. He had been on the road for hours, and while most nights were calm, he always stayed alert. Years on the force had taught him that even a routine evening could change in an instant, as he scanned the cars passing by. One vehicle caught his attention. It was a sleek black SUV, moving slightly faster than the surrounding traffic. Daniels noticed it weaving gently between lanes, not dangerously, but enough to stand out. He touched the radio, thinking it might be a simple speeding case. Maybe someone distracted by their phone or rushing home. Taking a deep breath, he flicked the lights on and watched as the SUV gradually pulled over to the side. Daniels eased his patrol car closer and parked behind the SUV, keeping a safe distance. He reached for his notepad, preparing to ask for the driver's license and registration. He reminded himself to stay calm and professional, as always. After all, traffic stops were routine, and his job was to handle them with care and fairness. Walking up to the vehicle, Daniels noticed the driver sitting calmly behind the wheel. He had expected a nervous glance or a quick apology, but instead, the man seemed composed, almost serene. Daniels knocked lightly on the window. The driver lowered it, greeting him with a polite, calm voice. "Good evening, officer," he said. Offering his documents without hesitation, Daniels took the license and registration, and as he glanced at the name, his heart skipped a beat. He read it again, unsure if he had seen it correctly. The name on the license was not familiar to most people on the street. It was someone famous, someone who was rarely seen in public. Daniels's mind raced. Could it really be the FBI director? It seemed impossible, yet everything matched. He looked at the man's face carefully. The driver was calm, showing no signs of arrogance or impatience. Daniels reminded himself to stay professional, even though his mind was whirling. He was trained for high-profile situations, but nothing could have prepared him for this exact moment. He radioed dispatch quietly, trying not to show his surprise. "Unit on Highway 1, I've pulled over a VIP, requesting confirmation," he said, keeping his voice steady. As he waited for dispatch, Daniels kept a friendly but neutral tone. He asked about the lane weaving, and the driver explained in a calm, measured voice that he had been checking directions briefly and had not intended to move between lanes. Daniels listened carefully, appreciating how cooperative and polite the man was. Even with the weight of his position, the driver treated the situation with respect and understanding. While they spoke, cars continued to move along the highway. Some slowed to see what was happening. Curious about the flashing lights in the black SUV, Daniels could feel the eyes of the world, at least in passing, and he knew every gesture mattered. He kept his tone steady and friendly, making sure to convey respect, while also performing his duty. Minutes felt longer than usual. But dispatch finally confirmed what Daniels already suspected. The license was genuine, and the driver was indeed the FBI director. Daniels's mind tried to process it, but he reminded himself that it was still a traffic stop, and he had to act accordingly. Titles and positions did not change the rules, and his professionalism mattered. More than anything in this moment, he explained to the driver that he was issuing a warning for the minor lane change, emphasizing the potential danger and the importance of paying attention while driving. The driver nodded, accepting the explanation fully, showing genuine understanding and appreciation. "I respect that," the man said sincerely, and Daniels could hear the authenticity in his voice. It was a reminder that, despite power and authority, everyone shared the same responsibility on the road. Daniels took a final look at the license and returned it carefully, keeping his hands steady despite the excitement inside. He reminded the driver to be cautious and to focus on the road. The SUV's engine rumbled as it merged back into traffic, and Daniels watched it disappear, feeling a strange mix of relief and disbelief. The encounter had been extraordinary in one sense, yet ordinary in another. It was a reminder that human connection, professionalism, and respect could turn even a high-profile situation into a simple, meaningful interaction. walking back to his patrol car. Daniels reflected on the events of the evening. The routine had turned into a story he would never forget, not because of the fame of the driver, but because of the humanity displayed in that moment. Both he and the FBI director had treated each other with fairness and respect, bridging the gap between authority and everyday responsibility. It was a lesson in professionalism and empathy, something Daniels carried with him long after the lights faded on the highway as he resumed his patrol. Daniels couldn't help but think about how small actions mattered. A polite exchange, a calm demeanor, and mutual understanding could change the tone of any encounter. That night, the highway seemed a little quieter, the sunset a little more beautiful, and Daniels felt a renewed sense of purpose in his role. He had been part of something unusual, yet deeply human, and it reminded him why he had chosen this path in the first place. Officer Daniels sat in his patrol car, staring at the highway as the black SUV disappeared into the distance. Even though the encounter was over, his mind kept replaying every detail. The calmness of the driver, the polite exchange, and the realization of who he had just pulled over left him in a mixture of awe and disbelief. It was not often that a routine traffic stop became a moment he would remember for the rest of his career. He tapped the radio to dispatch once more, giving a concise report about the stop and confirming that everything had been handled professionally. The voice on the other end acknowledged his update, reminding him to maintain focus on the rest of his patrol. Daniels took a deep breath and leaned back, reflecting on what had just happened. It was one thing to stop an ordinary driver. It was quite another to interact with someone holding the nation's highest levels of authority. And yet the interaction had been strangely ordinary, reminding him that at the core, everyone shared the same basic human experiences. The FBI director, now back on the highway, had his mind on the events that had just unfolded. He realized how easy it could have been for the situation to escalate, but the officer had handled it with care and professionalism. He was impressed by the calm yet authoritative way the officer communicated, showing both respect and firmness. It was a reminder to him that the law applies equally to everyone, and even someone in his position needed to comply and be accountable. Meanwhile, traffic flowed normally around him. Other drivers noticed the lingering police lights for a moment but quickly moved on, unaware of the extraordinary encounter that had just taken place. The FBI director felt a strange sense of humility. He understood that the titles, fame, or influence he carried did not exempt him from ordinary responsibilities. For a brief moment, he was just another driver on the road. Being reminded of the rules and the shared responsibilities that bind society together, back at his patrol car, Daniels thought about the lessons of the night. Professionalism, respect, and human connection had transformed what could have been a stressful situation into something meaningful. The officer realized that the encounter was not about the fame of the person he had stopped. It was about ensuring fairness, showing understanding, and maintaining his duty with integrity. Every action he took had an impact, and this interaction had left a lasting impression as he continued his patrol. Daniels felt a renewed sense of purpose. He understood that the extraordinary moments in his job often came when he least expected them. Every driver on the road, regardless of status, deserved respect and fairness. And sometimes, the simplest gestures, a calm tone, a clear explanation, warning instead of a ticket, could turn a routine traffic stop into a lasting human connection. The evening air grew cooler as the sun dipped further, and Daniels watched the headlights of passing cars stretch along the highway. He knew he would remember tonight for years. It's not because of the FBI director himself, but because of the reminder that human dignity and professionalism could shine through even the most ordinary situations. It was a quiet, reflective moment, but one that left a profound mark on him as an officer and as a person. The night continued. Traffic moved on, and life went forward, but the lesson of respect, fairness, and humanity lingered, quietly shaping how Daniels approached every stop from that moment onward. The next morning, Officer Daniels arrived at the station feeling the lingering excitement from the previous night. He had told a few colleagues about the traffic stop, careful not to exaggerate, but simply sharing the extraordinary experience of pulling over the FBI director. The story sparked quiet amazement among his peers. They asked questions, but Daniels focused on the human side of the encounter, explaining how calm, respectful, and cooperative the driver had been. It was not about fame or authority. It was about professionalism on both sides. Daniels reviewed the incident report, making sure every detail was accurate and complete. He knew that high-profile stops required careful documentation. But even as he filled out the forms, he found himself reflecting more on the human moments, the polite conversation, the mutual respect, the shared understanding that everyone had a role to play, regardless of status. It was a lesson that went beyond the law. It was about humanity. Meanwhile, the FBI director returned to his work, but he could not shake the memory of the stop. He thought about the officer's professionalism and calm demeanor. He appreciated the way the officer treated him like any other citizen, enforcing the rules without fear or favoritism. It reminded him that respect and trust between citizens and law enforcement were built through ordinary, everyday actions, not just titles or authority. The director shared the story with a few close colleagues, not as a boast, but as an example of how good policing worked. Even someone with immense responsibility and power could be held accountable in a simple, human way. It reinforced the belief that fairness and integrity were crucial, no matter who was involved. The officer's approach had turned a potential moment of tension into a lesson in professionalism and respect. Back at the station, Daniels continued his usual duties, but the memory of the stop lingered. It influenced how he interacted with other drivers, reminding him to treat every person with the same respect and fairness. He noticed small things, the nervous hand gestures of a new driver, the quiet apology of someone distracted, the relief in the eyes of someone who had made a mistake. In all these moments, he carried the lesson of the previous night. Human connection and professional respect mattered above all. Even days later, Daniels thought about the encounter during his patrols. The story of stopping the FBI director had become a subtle part of his experience. A quiet reminder that even ordinary moments could carry extraordinary meaning. The night had reinforced his belief in the importance of calmness, patience, and clear communication. These qualities had turned a routine traffic stop into a memorable lesson in humanity, showing that integrity and professionalism could bridge even the widest gaps in status and power as the week went on. The stop became a talking point among Daniel's colleagues, but he always emphasized the same message. It wasn't about the fame of the driver. It was about the professionalism, respect, and human understanding that made the encounter meaningful. The lesson stayed with him, shaping his approach to his work and reminding him that every interaction mattered. On that highway, during a quiet evening, two people had connected through respect and understanding, leaving a lasting impression on both their lives and offering a simple yet profound reminder of what it meant to treat each other as human beings first. Days passed since the traffic stop, but Officer Daniels couldn't shake the memory. Every time he walked onto the highway, he thought about the calm and respectful interaction he had experienced. It reminded him of the importance of staying professional and compassionate, even during the most routine stops. The encounter had become more than a story to share with colleagues. It was a reminder of why he chose this career, a symbol of human connection and respect in a world often dominated by titles and authority. The FBI director, meanwhile, found himself reflecting on the stop during meetings and briefings. It was a rare, quiet moment in a hectic schedule, a moment that reinforced the value of accountability. Even with immense responsibility, he had been treated like any other person on the road, and he had been expected to follow the same rules. That simple act of equality, combined with professionalism, had left a lasting impression. He realized how important it was for people in positions of power to experience ordinary interactions, for it reminded them of the shared responsibilities everyone had. Officer Daniels returned to normal patrols, but with a renewed sense of purpose. Each traffic stop, no matter how small, became an opportunity to practice the lessons from that evening: patience, calmness, and respect. He noticed drivers who were nervous, drivers who tried to explain mistakes, and even those who were frustrated. In each case, he approached them with the same level of professionalism he had shown during the extraordinary encounter. It became a personal standard, one that made him more mindful and compassionate in every interaction. The story of the stop gradually spread in subtle ways among the station staff. While it was exciting to have interacted with such a high-profile individual, Daniels focused on the lesson rather than the fame. He emphasized how professionalism and human respect could make an ordinary encounter extraordinary. The story became a quiet teaching point for newer officers, a reminder that the way they handled every situation mattered, regardless of the person on the other side of the patrol car window. For the FBI director, the stop became a reflection point in his own life. He thought about the ways in which power and authority could isolate individuals, and how moments like these brought a sense of grounding. The officer had treated him as an equal, enforcing the law without fear or bias. And the respect shown in that moment reinforced the human connection between citizens and those who protect them. It reminded him that everyone, no matter their position, shared a common responsibility, and that mutual respect was essential for a functioning society. As time went on, both Officer Daniels and the FBI director carried the memory of the stop in different ways. For Daniels, it was about refining his approach to his work, staying calm under pressure, and treating every individual with dignity. For the director, it was about recognizing the value of ordinary encounters and appreciating the fairness and professionalism that law enforcement could embody. Both had been reminded that humanity, integrity, and respect mattered most. Even in the smallest moments, the highway continued to bustle with cars, lights, and movement. But for Daniels, each stop was now colored by the lessons of that evening. He understood that the simplest interactions could hold profound meaning, and that human connection was always at the heart of his role. He had seen it firsthand, a moment that could have been routine turned into a remarkable reminder of respect, understanding, and the shared humanity that connects everyone, no matter who they are. Weeks had passed since that evening on the highway, but Officer Daniels still thought about the traffic stop regularly. It had become more than a story to share with colleagues. It was a memory that shaped how he approached every interaction. Every driver on the road reminded him that the principles of patience, respect, and professionalism were not just rules, they were tools to connect with people, to understand them, and to guide them safely. That evening, the incident had started as a simple pullover, a routine check for a minor lane violation. Yet, it had quickly become extraordinary. When he realized who was in the SUV, Daniels remembered the calm and composed demeanor of the FBI director. His polite words, and the way he complied willingly, without any expectation of special treatment. It was a reminder that authority did not make someone above responsibility, and that everyone, no matter their position, shared the same basic human experiences. For the FBI director, the stop was a quiet reflection on the human side of authority. Despite his high-profile position, he had been treated with fairness, respect, and professionalism. The experience reinforced his understanding that mutual respect between citizens and law enforcement was crucial for a functioning society. Even someone in a position of power could learn humility from ordinary encounters. The officer's conduct had left a lasting impression on him. Daniels continued to patrol the highways with renewed focus. Every stop became a practice in human connection. He noticed the small gestures and nervous glance, a hurried apology, the relief on a driver's face after a warning that reminded him of the night he had pulled over the FBI director. These moments became meaningful to him, emphasizing the impact of calmness, clear communication, and fairness. Each interaction was an opportunity to make a difference. No matter how small it seemed, the story spread quietly among colleagues, not as a tale of fame or power, but as a lesson in professionalism and human dignity. New officers were reminded of the importance of patience, respect, and calm communication. Daniels' example became a standard for how to handle unexpected, high-profile situations with grace, integrity, and understanding. The message was clear. Every interaction mattered, and the way one treated people could leave lasting impressions. For the FBI director, the stop served as a reminder to remain grounded and accountable, no matter his responsibilities. The officer's professionalism highlighted how important fairness and respect were in every situation. It showed that even in high-pressure, high-stakes roles, human connection and understanding could create moments of learning and reflection. That ordinary evening became an extraordinary reminder of the shared responsibilities and humanity that exist in everyone. Looking back, both Officer Daniels and the FBI director carried the memory differently, but its impact was undeniable. Daniels had been reminded of why he joined the force, why every stop mattered, and why respect and empathy were essential in his work. The director had been reminded that accountability, humility, and appreciation for ordinary interactions were key to maintaining trust and perspective. In the end, the traffic stop was more than a moment on the highway. It was a human story. It was about respect, professionalism, understanding, the small ways that people can connect despite differences in status or power. It was a story that stayed with both men, quietly shaping their actions, decisions, and perspectives. They had both learned that even the most ordinary moments could hold extraordinary meaning, and that treating each other with dignity and respect could leave a lasting mark on a person's life. Long after the cars had moved on and the lights had faded,